Welcome back to the world of IDW Sonic the Hedgehog, and today we're taking a look at issue 23, the third and final story that's running simultaneously with two other stories, pardon the pun. As always, spoilers from this point forward. The first story in issue 21 had Tails trying and ultimately failing to find a cure to the metal virus, while Tangle and Whisper gather any survivors from Central City. The second story in issue 22 had Zombots infiltrate Restoration HQ, either by sneaking in while infected, or by capturing one in a container that eventually breaks. This resulted in two characters getting infected and only one shuttle escaping. During all this, Dr. Starline has been secretly meeting with the Deadly Six because the Zombots are growing beyond Eggman's control. He's researched the Lost World incident, and he's hoping the Zeddy can control them. Well, unless there's another means of controlling the Zeddy or the Zombots, I think Starline just made a huge mistake. Anyway, the two hero plotlines united when the escape shuttle picked up Tails and the other survivors of Central City. With news of Tails losing the cure, their only hope now is the data device Sonic's wearing. So let's turn back the clock one more time and see what the Hedgehog's been up to during all this. We start with Sonic running towards Barricade Town, the setting of issue 3, while transmitting data to Tails. Sonic wants to head towards Central City when he hears that Zombots are in the area, but Tails wants him to keep running for the sake of the cure. You know, Tails, you could have Sonic running towards you. Not only would you still gather data, but Sonic could provide assistance when things go down in your lab. Plus, to jump ahead a bit, it would save Sonic some headache later. Sonic reaches Barricade Town, which has fallen to the metal virus. He has a dilemma. Should he go in and check for survivors and risk the Zombots hitting the device, or just keep running so that everyone can be saved later? Well, it looks like Sonic's made his decision when he spots a certain someone inside, Eggman. He and Starline are working out their own problem with the Zombots, namely getting control over them. They're cycling through numerous frequencies without success. Maybe if they hadn't tried to contact Otacon, they'll make progress. Eggman thinks this is a bit tedious, but Starline points out that if Eggman built a failsafe into the metal virus, they wouldn't need to do this. Eggman then has the idea of using the warp topaz in combination with the Chaos Emeralds on the face ship. Starline refuses. As he explains, anything above a light-controlled charge would screw up reality. He found that out the hard way. Something tells me this should be filed away for later. Now you think with something as dangerous as the metal virus, Eggman would have taken the most obvious of precautions and created a vaccine for himself, right? Nope. His precaution is, just don't touch them. This results in a heated argument between the two until Sonic interrupts them. Sonic cuts straight to the point. He asks why Eggman went back to being a mad scientist rather than remaining the kind Mr. Tinker. He does acknowledge Starline's role in restoring his memory, but the comic neglects one major element that I will get to in the next section. After briefly reminiscing his time as Mr. Tinker, Eggman's response is he wants to provide peace and unity to the world, this time through a zombie apocalypse. He doesn't want to stop it even if he wanted to. All he's worried about is getting absolute control over the Zombots so he can rule the world. Sonic's had enough and charges towards Eggman, who's eager for one final fight. As the two go at it, Starline expresses his disappointment in Eggman, that he utilizes brute force instead of proper planning. He's even extended this thought to Neo Metal Sonic due to having Eggman's DNA, and thus had a similar mindset. Sonic finally gets an opening, and as Eggman tries to avoid being touched, both of them fall into the Zombot-filled streets below. Boy, Eggman, a cure would have come in handy right now, right? Well, surprisingly, the Zombots halt their assault on Eggman, only because Starline found a control frequency that works. Eggman having control over the Zombots would invalidate the Deadly Six plot thread, and we can't have that, so Sonic destroys the Eggmobile before the frequency can be uploaded to the face ship. Eggman latches onto Starline's pod, but because he's so heavy, they crash on top of the town's outer wall. Unfortunately, before the Zombots can nab them, Starline warps the two back to the face ship. Starline hopes to salvage their work on the frequency, but Eggman's done with that nonsense. Anyway, they've arrived at their next destination, Spiral Hill Village, aka Tangle's hometown. Back in Barricade Town, we get the worst case scenario. Sonic wrecked the data device, and he has almost fully succumbed to the virus. Despite the situation spiraling out of control, Sonic speeds off, vowing to save whoever's not infected while he still can. Look at him though. This is the most tired he's been since ever. He gets a call from Amy to meet up in Spiral Hill Village and to also share their bad news. Things are about to get worse as Starline returns to the Lost Hex to meet up with Zavok. After witnessing how the Zeddy control machines, Starline will need to make some final preparations on his end and leaves. Well, Starline, I understand why you need to get the Zombots under control, especially after today, but to go to the Deadly Six? You just handed these guys a winning lottery ticket. Or have you? Yes, it seems Starline did a little more research than we thought. He's anticipating betrayal and read about how Eggman originally controlled the Zeddy with the cacophonic conch shell. Luckily, the now former fanboy has collected a lot of the Doctor's paraphernalia, including, yes, a cacophonic conch. One of the main goals of this issue is to have Sonic and Eggman meet face to face once again. Oh, there have been times where the two were in the same general area, but Eggman was usually high above in his spaceship while Sonic was fighting Zombots. Now here we are, Sonic's actual first meeting with Eggman ever since he became Eggman again. I'm glad Sonic and Eggman addressed the Mr. Tinker situation, and I'm glad Sonic acknowledged Starline's role in this. There is one element the comic glosses over: Metal Sonic. Sure, Starline tried mind-screwing Eggman back to his old self, but after the procedure, he was still in Mr. Tinker mode. It's only the arrival of a damaged Metal Sonic that snapped Eggman back to normal, which wouldn't be possible if Sonic hadn't released Metal Sonic in the first place. To be fair, Sonic did not know releasing Metal Sonic would ultimately snowball into the current situation. But there was a missed opportunity here. All it would take is a minor dialogue change, like when Eggman's reminiscing about his time as Mr. Tinker, for him to bring this up to Sonic. He could say he enjoyed the time and wanted to keep doing it despite Starline's mind-screwing techniques. But then the appearance of the damaged Metal Sonic reminded him of his real self and embraced it. Sonic would have put two and two together, and he would feel even more guilty. I guess they didn't mention it because, in a way, Sonic is paying for letting Metal Sonic go. Plus, he was already feeling guilty for letting Eggman getting under his skin. He couldn't resist once again attacking Eggman in an Eggmobile, and as a result, all hopes for a cure are officially dashed. I will not apologize for that pun because Sonic should have known better. In true Sonic fashion, he will continue to fight with the odds stacked against him. However, I have a feeling that for one brief moment, Sonic was ready to give up, maybe punishing himself for royally screwing up. He would have fully succumbed if not for the front ends of his feet. Perhaps he should have transformed because, look at him. All of this constant running is not good for Sonic. At some point, his body will give out. Props to Jack Lawrence for this exhausted Sonic here. Also props to him and colorist Matt Herms for giving the issue a dark and gloomy look. It fits well with the current atmosphere of the comic. Not only is the only other chance for a cure gone, so is any other means of controlling the Zombots without Zeddy interference. All because Eggman doesn't thoroughly plan his scheme. But if you remember his actions from the various Sonic games, it's par for the course by now. I don't know about anyone else, but I was so hoping Eggman would get infected. Yes, seeing him cower is somewhat satisfying, but after what he's done, he deserves a bit of karma. But no, he got away for now. Moving on to Starline, whatever admiration he had for Eggman is now gone. Going back to what I said in issue 14, sometimes it's not a good idea to meet your heroes because one crafts an image of who a person is based on limited exposure, either through stories, observing some of their activities from afar, etc. When one meets their hero and they don't match what they imagine them to be, disappointment could ensue. Starline expected someone who's a brilliant strategist. Instead, he got someone who's just winging it. This is why he's hatching his own plan to get the Zombots under control using assets from a previous game. I'm not just talking about the Deadly Six, but the means Eggman controlled them last time. This could be another magic conch shell Starline found. With the warp topaz, it's possible to do quick searches. I mean, that's how he gathered the 7 Chaos Emeralds in the first place, I assume. Or it could be the same one Eggman lost. In Sonic Lost World, all Sonic did was kick the magic conch shell away, and we don't exactly know how durable it is. And before you say anything, I am not counting the crossover event Worlds Unite. That's a whole nother continuity. It seems Starline has the situation under control, unless the Zeti have figured out a way around the effects of the magic conch shell. But what are the chances of that happening? Now that we've reached the end of this trilogy of stories, I want to briefly share my overall thoughts on this experiment. Simultaneous stories have appeared in other media before, so the concept isn't new. One notable example being the Simpsons Trilogy of Error episode, in which we see one day from Homer, Lisa, and Bart's point of view, with some occasional overlap. Some planning has to take place to make sure events sync up properly, for the most part. The 3 Sonic issues succeed on that front. While that Simpsons example is nice, I believe there are others more related to our heroic lead of this series. What could they be? Oh yeah, these guys. Gotta love those multiple character path games. It also shows us the scale of the Zombot problem. Most of the heroes are spread out since at this point, the majority of the world has succumbed. If I were to point out some flaws, first, it's the comic format, by which I mean waiting a month for the next chapter. Ideally, there's nothing wrong with that. It gets the anticipation going. But when you factor unexpected delays, there's the problem. It's best to read this after all 3 parts are out, or later when they're collected in a graphic novel format. The second thing is that whole Cure arc. Maybe it's just me, but it's a shame nothing came from it. I was hoping for a little bit of hope, as the story is about to approach its darkest hour. Well, there are 7 multicolored emeralds around that may serve a purpose in the climax. Plus, again, why would Starline give details about the warp topaz if not for setting something up later? I could be wrong though, we'll have to see. With Spiral Hill Village being the next target, how will our heroes handle things this time? And will Starline's plan with the Deadly Six succeed? We'll find out in issue 24, which will mark the end of year 2 of IDW Sonic. See you then. Why do I have the feeling that the frequency controlling the Zombots for a time is 140.85? Maybe it has something to do with nanomachines or something.